Homeless person shit on the table. Enough said. AskReddit, what was your worst restaurant experience? Warning, if you're reading this, you probably don't want to be eating this. Happened at my old job. I used to work at back for a while as a kitchen manager. One day our city had a huge football game and our restaurant was catching all the people out to state. When there was a break in the action I needed to use the restroom. I step in, and the smell hit me. It smelled like the inside of a zombie's asshole. My first instinct was to check the urinal, because of a past shit show in that bathroom, but it was clean, and in that split second I completely forgot the smell, and went on with my business. As I go to wash my hands and the smell came back, and then the realization hit me. I never checked the stall. I forgot to mention that the stall clearly had a sign that said out of order, but I guess when you're in an ass disaster then you don't see it. And ass disaster it was. I cracked the stall and the smell smacked me in the face, violating 4 of my 5 senses. I dipped my head in and there I saw it. A pile of shit that makes the chili that Kevin dropped jealous. Oh, and none of it in the toilet. I was amazed that there wasn't a trail of schnitt. But that wasn't the crazy part. The crazy part was there was a shirt in that pile of schnitt. Somebody on the verge of shatting themselves or shatting up their back came into a restaurant and lost a shirt. Needless to say I wasn't cleaning that up, and my kitchen staff had a great laugh while we waited until everybody else found it. About 5 years ago I went to an Athens Hot Dogs in New York. While there I witnessed this snot nose of a clerk blatantly ignore an autistic guy's order. I stepped in to say something to the manager, who was on duty, but I heard Schnatnose whisper to his boss that he could take the retard's order. When the manager chuckled, I left. On my way out I let his family know what had happened. They were understandably pissed. It was so aggravating that I called the corporate office and let them know. Went out to dinner with my wife. No tables are available. Why don't you folks wait in the bar and we'll call you when a table's ready? Okay. Makes sense. Waitress comes into bar area with glasses from nearby guest's table and shoves them into the ice bin before refilling them with soda. A cross-contamination no. Noted. Not happy. Same waitress comes back with a tray of plates from a table. Goes through the swinging door to the kitchen. We see her scraping the plates' contents into a hole in the stainless steel table where garbage goes. Comes out and stops. Says, shoot. Whips around and goes back into the kitchen. Doors swinging as we see her dive into the hole in the stainless steel table. Soon returns with several styrofoam boxes with what we could only assume were the patrons' food that was to be saved for take home. That did it. We left and never went back. Not sure if it was my worst restaurant experience, but I will throw my 2 cents in. Years ago, we were on holiday at a seaside location and Dad took us to an Italian restaurant. He knew it had really good food, but as soon as we entered, we immediately noticed that said restaurant had seen better times. The place was quite shabby and outdated. We sat at a table next to the beginning of the corridor that led to toilets and very close to a bar. Waiter arrived and gave us the menu. Mom noticed there were no drinks on it, and Dad called the guy and asked him, "Boy, what drinks do you serve here?" The waiter, looking pretty distracted, replied, peach. Peach. Peach what? Peach juice? Or a peach fruit? Peaches are supposed to be eaten, not to be drank. The guy chuckled and said, "Yes sir, I meant peach juice." Dad ordered 2 peach juices and me and my brother ordered a Coke, and we all ordered pizzas. Soon after, Mom noticed that the waiter was at the bar, sipping beer from a bottle every now and then in order to avoid being seen by the other guests, but the guy was too tipsy to pretend he wasn't drinking alcohol. That same guy appeared minutes after with our pizzas except for Mom, and we all started to eat, but Mom's pizza was taking too long and Dad asked the waiter what was going on with her pizza, to which he replied, "I'm very sorry sir, I will go to kitchen to see what happened." That guy almost tripped over on its way to the kitchen, and it was pretty hilarious to watch lol. Fortunately he didn't have anything in his hands, otherwise it would have been much worse. A few minutes after, a fat guy was coming with a pizza in his hands, directed towards our table, but just mere steps from it, the plate slipped off from his left hand and Mom's pizza fell on the floor. Dad saw the whole thing and his face became red as a tomato and burst into laughter, as well as myself. In the midst of his laughter he told Mom, "Honey, your pizza is there," to which Mom replied, "Where?" I don't see it. And dad said, yes, do you see it? It's on the floor. The fat guy, who happened to be the owner, apologized to us and offered to make another one free of any charge, but mom had already lost her appetite and told dad to get the check ASAP. We returned to that same location for holiday a handful number of times after, but we never returned again to that restaurant, which by the way, it's no longer in operation. So I was eating at Chinese buffet restaurant and the waitress comes over to take my plate. The food wasn't very good either. Anyway, she walks over and takes my plate. And I had a bit of rice left on my plate. And no shite, she yells, waste of food. The shock on everyone else in the restaurant faces were priceless. My family had went out for a quick meal after a nice trip to the mall. And my mom had ordered a salad. We got our food and began eating. And my mom picks up some lettuce or whatever was in the salad and is about to put it in her mouth when she screams and jumps up from her chair. I could see tears forming in her eyes and my sister looked terrified. My dad is confused and asks her what is wrong and the only thing she manages to say is, dead grasshopper. We look into her salad and, well, there was a dead grasshopper in it. Before we could do anything, the grasshopper started twitching its legs. Clearly, our little friend was not dead, and I'm not quite sure if that made the situation better or worse. Anyways, my dad picks up the salad and brings it over to the kitchen, showing it to the first employee he saw. She screamed as well and soon the manager appeared. My dad presented him with the grasshopper and the manager just goes, huh, sorry about that. As if it were a casual thing. For an apology, we were to receive a free medium fry the next time we came there. When we got into the car to leave, my dad turns around in his seat with a grin on his face and says, well, hey. At least we know the salad was fresh. What the frick, dad? Definitely getting food poisoning at IHOP when I was 8 or 9. I went with my mom and got an omelette, and so did she. We were both violently ill within an hour. The kicker here is that this was the time period when Pepsi Blue was out. I can tell you from experience that Pepsi Blue being vomited through your nose is just the most exquisite pain. My family went to a high-end restaurant on vacation. My dad got the steak. He said it tasted like rubber and tried to send it back and get something else. When we got the bill, they charged us for the steak. We tried to protest it, but he had eaten too much of it. He had probably of it. We took it up with the manager who refused to take the steak off. It ended with a lot of yelling, and I think we walked away without paying. We got in a restaurant, ordered something, and waited. We waited one goddamn hour and we asked where the hell is our food. They responded, actually you waited 1 hour and 18 minutes. We left to another restaurant. Since that day, I'm always afraid that no one serves us almost every time I go in a restaurant. What an a-hole. Oh, that one startup restaurant was on the street, giving away 20% off entire order pamphlets. The waitress asked me whatever I chose from the menu. She said, sorry, we don't have that. I asked, what do you have? Choose something from the menu. I want this. Sorry, we don't have that. We ended up choosing what was there instead of what we wanted. Then, she put some random things on the bill, so it was 2 times more to pay than it should be. And, when we said we won't pay for something we didn't buy, she started shouting, it's already on the register, you have to pay. We just tried to leave without paying at all. She would block the door and say, pay or I'll call the police. We said, go ahead, call. She actually called them. They just came with binds and bound her without a word. Guess she was notorious for having serious mental problems. Instein's bagels. I don't like the freaking schmear on my breakfast sandwich. Alright. Am I crazy? Over the course of almost 20 years, I have never had them not put it on when I order it with no schmear. Stopped going there for many years because of the repetitive negative association. Girlfriend convinced me to try it again for the first time in 10 or more years. I order, get my sandwich, then we go out to the car. Open it, schmear. I wasn't that surprised, so I go in, exchange it, express why I'm exchanging it. They remake it, and I take it trustingly. Get to the car again, schmear again. Now, I'm a little weird in customer service situations. I worked in customer service for a very long time, so I actually have this weird propensity to be polite and respectful to the servers. I figure I'll go back in once more, not make a fuss, exchange it again, and there is no way they would mess it up again. I take my third sandwich, walk to the door, but instead of go all the way out before checking it, I open it to make sure. SHMEAR. What the frick? This dude just went back, had them immediately remake it, then personally handed it to me. This time, I make sure to have a conversation with the guy at the counter. He explains to me that the girl preparing the sandwiches just doesn't know what she is doing and messes up all the time. Nice. He makes it himself this time, and I finally get my fourth sandwich. Get back to the car and my girl is already done and ready to get going to start our day. The sandwich was friggin' delicious, but the hassle is never worth it. It never is. There. Am I taking crazy pills? Am I like the one dude in 300 million people who orders with no schmear? Is the universe trying to tell me something? I found a baby roach inside my lasagna still alive. Called the waiter, showed her the problem. She apologizes and asked if I want another. I said no, and that we were done. Then she said she'll bring the check, my girlfriend, at the time, and I looked to each other and smiled, stood up, walked to the counter, asked for the complaints book, I don't know if other countries have it, and went to another restaurant. My wife and I were on a date. First date since having a baby, so it was pretty special for us to get it alone. The ice in my blended cocktail wasn't melting in my mouth as fast as I thought it should. That's when my wife noticed there was blood on my lips. I was drinking shards of glass. It was my first mouthful, so I don't think I swallowed much, if any. We called the manager over, and she said I didn't have to pay for the cocktail. I told her I wasn't going to pay for anything. She called the police on us. Cops showed up. We didn't have to pay for our meal.